Very good morning to you. Welcome along this Tuesday morning to OTB AM. We're here with you every morning from 7:30 until 9:30. Kickstarting your day with all the sports news that you need to know and some that you don't. If you want to get in touch with us this morning, you can use the hashtag OTB AM. Johnny Ward is here. How are you?
Good morning. How are you, Ger?
Johnny was scrapping on Twitter last night about the Unite the Union Champions Cup, but there was a much bigger scrap happening at around the same time. Raheem Sterling and Joe Gomez were at it, Johnny.
I don't know, were they at it that late? Like 9, 10 o'clock last night?
I think was it? Well, he almost was in training yesterday.
Yeah. This isn't actually in the paper, so it obviously happened quite late, but Gomez and Sterling clashed at the England training session, and England coach Gareth Southgate reportedly said, "We've taken the decision to not consider Raheem for the match against Montenegro on Thursday. One of the great challenges and strengths for us is that we've been able to separate club rivalries from the national team. Unfortunately, the emotions of yesterday's game were still raw." So they've obviously come down on the side that Sterling was wrong anyway, and yeah, it was. I mean, it was. Because
Gomez is available for selection. Let's make it so they've picked their star player, and he ain't going to play this week.
It's interesting because you know the game was it was a fairly tense occasion on Sunday. I think Manchester City are kind of realising now that they do have problems, and I think Guardiola's behaving in a manner almost to mask that. They're not defending very well for one thing, and this is obviously the game on Sunday.
Just showing some pictures here for those of you listening on Go Loud.
Yeah, and
what happened was like Sterling, Gomez had the ball. Sterling wanted it. There'd been a free kick or a throw-in given. Sterling comes around him and tries to get at him, and Gomez pushes him away. And at that point, Sterling is enraged.
Sterling
hands off me.
Did react a bit strangely in the whole thing, but yeah, it seems a bit drastic, to be fair.
Tailor the tape. Who's the tallest?
Who's the tallest?
Yeah. What's the difference in size?
Of the two boys.
6'2"
and
5'7".
Yeah, it's pretty.
Quite a. I'm not sure. Maybe the YouTubers would be allowed to get away with this, but the Hearn father and son would feel a little bit shy about promoting a 5'7" guy against a 6'2" fighter.
I think Gareth Southgate knows England are going to win the game as well.
That helps. That helps. But I mean, look, Sterling is their best player by a mile. I want to stick up the Raheem Sterling statement. This looks like an Instagram story, is it? Yeah, or a screen grab from Instagram. Yeah. First and foremost, everyone knows what the game means to me. Everyone knows that I am not that way inclined, and more to the point, both Joe and I have had words and figured things out and moved on. We're in a sport where emotions run high, and I'm man enough to admit when emotions got the better of me. We move. This is why we play this sport, because of our love for it. Me and at Joe Gomez 5 are good. We both understand it was a 5-10 second thing. It's done. We move forward and not make this bigger than it is. Let's get focused on our game on Thursday. Love heart, love heart, love heart.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm guilty of this myself, but they should really, you know, footballers and sports people should consult people just when they're putting out such a meaningful tweet. Just get your grammar right and focus.
No.
You
be true to
words
yourself.
and all.
Be true to yourself. I think.
Be true to yourself.
Oh, come on! If that came out in reports of an incident between myself and Joe Gomez, like no, that's who he is. That's exactly right. I would think that if you PR that to the max, it goes through.
It's not even PR. Just text.
Camel is a horse designed by committee, buddy.
Run your grammar eyes over this. You know.
Why? That's how he speaks.
Let's get focus. I mean, he surely didn't mean that. That's a typo.
I mean, let's get focus.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
I think anyway. Witnesses, which of now there's
emerged.
Exactly. I mean, just everybody's like straight onto WhatsApp to their agents, going, "Oh, mate, you're not going to believe it." And like, well, I would, because it's all over the paper.
It was a magnanimous message by him, though. To be fair.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I like Sterling.
Witnesses say they heard Sterling ask the Liverpool defender whether he was still the big man. Which isn't a great question, because he still is the big man. He's 6'2", and he ain't changing anytime soon, Raheem. Yeah. That's a big difference in height. We're just looking at the photograph of him here. Now, I would say fair play to Raheem Sterling. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. There's a lot of fight in Raheem Sterling.
Yeah.
He's brave. He's taken on 6'2".
Is it reflective of the fact that Man City are in the shit?
Well, certainly they were at the weekend.
You know, I think that might be the bigger issue here, that they're getting a bit frustrated that the title is somewhat run away from them at this stage, and a team with Dejan Lovren in it, they still are comfortably beaten, is pretty worrying.
All of the players apparently agreed that this was the right way to deal with the issue.
Well, they obviously think Sterling's going to overstep the mark, but in fairness, his message is quite magnanimous, and I'm sure we'll all forget about it in no space of time at all.
But Johnny, that's not how this works.
We have to talk about it.
Come on, we're live on the radio/internet right now.
Next 2 hours.
Yeah, come on. What's your hot take on Raheem Sterling?
Yeah, well, he won't be playing in the next England game against Montenegro, so I think we'll leave it to Gareth Southgate.
If it was a big game, do you think he would have played?
I think he would have had
they would have found a different way to do this
to make. Yeah, it's very easy to
I see the chief football writers have all immediately pronounced on this, and Twitter helpfully puts them all together. Ollie Holt making the point that it looks like he is in charge. Rob Harris is making the point that getting out early, making a public statement from Southgate kills all the rumours. Certainly it doesn't kill the rumours, but it controlled the narrative as best you can. And Sterling now has come out and said it, so they probably will be able to move on.
Didn't get in the papers as well by the looks of it, which
is imagine what tomorrow's going to be like.
Which is a help.
Well, you remember when Chelsea were at their peak and the other teams, the Man United team was good and Liverpool had Stevie G. The stories were that the Chelsea players would sit together, the Man United players would sit together, and the Liverpool players would sit together, and never would they mix at England camp. And maybe that was one of those reasons why that golden generation never performed.
When I was managing the under-16s at home, I used to always put, like, when you had two players in some sort of an exercise together, I'd always put two players that were from different parts of the parish that wouldn't know each other, because I think that's important. That in a wider sense, I suppose, you room people together, unless you want to do the Roy Keane and Dennis Irwin, you room people together to get them to know each other, because there are cliques and squads. And I remember Gerard spoke about that, and it seemed quite profound. It was that there were a lot of different. You don't get the feeling in the Ireland squads necessarily. Anyway, they seem to be a lot more together than that. But yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Ireland a little bit later on. The notion, our debate today, is the notion that Ireland don't have the footballers. We're just not good enough to be able to keep the ball, pass the ball, control the ball, and apply ourselves to a possession-based game. Let's face it. All of the managers we've ever had, with the exception of Brian Kerr for that brief period of time, would have said this publicly largely, all the way back to Jack. Like, it seems not, they're not as good as England, are they? Even though that was the best team we ever had. Trap, very clearly, very pronounced. This isn't maybe Mick McCarthy the first time round. But this time round, Mick McCarthy's basically like, look, I don't know if we're good enough here, I mean, we're not going to be fanning about with the ball at the back.
Don't have long enough to inculcate a change in system, because Mick McCarthy had 6 meaningful games in this tournament and decided, like, I think Martin O'Neill decided that his remit was to get us qualified, and the simplest thing to do was to not play football and to try to win games. And I'm not sure they necessarily believe our players are that bad, because if we watched a good bit of the Sheffield United game here on Saturday, where they more or less outplayed Tottenham for much of the game, they didn't look like players that play for Ireland. And Conor Hourihane does stuff for Villa, albeit he's not necessarily playing at the moment. But Conor Hourihane is able to play. But I think they consider it a risk, because it's so long now that Ireland teams don't really play football. And I think Jack probably has a good bit to answer for here, because Jack had players that were able to play. Jack had very good players.
Amazing players who were definitely able to play.
It's interesting that Stephen Kenny in Eamon Dunphy's podcast, I remember he interviewed him probably about a year ago, maybe last year, and he said, I wouldn't go to Ireland games back then. I just hated the way we played, and you might be seen as a kind of a football snob, but Jack achieved results, but maybe as a nation, the way we celebrate Italia 90 and, the game against Egypt, which was, we should have been done for war crimes, really. It was that bad. It was like horrible stuff. It was, and even other games that weren't as memorably bad were awful. But we seem to think that was fine, and as a football nation, we seem to really join in the party, while maybe not looking at the deeper question. When eventually Jacksons were found out quite badly in the end, that we were being left behind by teams that could pass the ball.
Yeah, I think there's stuff going on about the party that, like, bear in mind, we're coming out of the 80s, one of the grimmest periods in Irish life since the 50s. So if there's a party on, and people want to party, I don't have too many problems with that. It's what the footballing, it's what it does for our football culture.
Yeah, I was obviously too young to really remember what was going on in the media then, but I don't know if people had reservations about the way we played. I think in fairness,
Dumpy threw his pen across the studio. At how bad we were playing, and that was that part of the narrative.
Yeah, I think in fairness to Mick though, in Mick's first reign, we didn't play bad football. In fairness, we weren't the worst.
Let's come back to this a little bit later on. Yeah. We had Roy Keane.
We did.
Who was passing the ball more than anybody else in world football at the time. Here's what's coming up on the show. That debate is coming your way a little bit later on. Phil's going to join us for that. Going to talk Irish football around about 8:20. Stephen Poacher is going to join us at 8:05, the end of his time. Carlo is upon us. He was announced it in the last couple of days. Sports pages are next. In the next hour then, Manchester United and Busby. Daniel Harris has been involved in the making of a new documentary about Matt Busby. We'll talk to him about that. And then I'm Angry is our new slot at 9:05. Phil is angry that Irish footballers can't get the credit they deserve.
Oh, is this contrived anger then? Is it actual anger, or we just have to be angry about something?
No, you don't have to be. Phil's pretty angry. Yeah.
Is Phil angry
angry about it.
Every morning from Monday to Friday on OTB AM?
No, just once a week.
Once a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we can all be angry once a week.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Maybe you can come in some Tuesday morning at 9:05 and you can be. It's not.
Phil's fuming, I've just been told. Absolutely fuming. Banging down the door to get in. I thought Phil was quite a placid, nice,
and so imagine
bloke.
Imagine how upset he must be about this.
Raging.
For him to want to be raging publicly.
It's a good debate, though. It's a very good debate, and it's one that is very, very easy to go either side of, I think. Because we're not technically amazing, but we could be better.
Yeah. Here's the sports pages.
OTB AM.
It's 7:43 AM this morning, and here are your morning sports pages. The front cover of the Irish Examiner is a picture of Stuart Lancaster with 6 tackle bags, unwanted baggage. Lancaster won't carry can for Ireland failure. And then Where in the World, Home is Where the Heart Is for Globetrotting O'Sullivan. And they also have an interview with Gareth Fitzgerald, the ex-Munster CEO. He's talking about how they had planned to make Jacques Nienaber the next head coach, but Rassie Rasmus obviously wants him to be part of his coaching ticket.
Yeah, this is the Sun. I found this a fairly strange editorial line. I won't turn my back on Ireland. Club role not in McCarthy's plan. As if there were any chance of Mick McCarthy abandoning Ireland. I would have thought it was a 1,000,000,000 to 1. Although maybe they felt the question needed to be asked. Neil O'Riordan with the story. This obviously follows Mick O'Neill's move to Stoke, which, really is a very, very different scenario. Obviously has had no experience in managing in English football. Connolly sidelined. And boss Unai told to get a grip. He's been warned by Arsenal bosses. Results are not good enough. And Arteta ideal for City, claims Vin, and that is Vince and company. He believes he's the natural successor to Pep Guardiola.
That's it. Still that he won't take the Arsenal job, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, wait, don't take it. We want you. We want to have the option, but we're not going to give you the job right now because obviously we've got a manager who's pretty good. The back page of the Irish Independent this morning. Connolly blow as teen star ruled out of Danish date. This is the news, obviously, that came through last night, that Aaron Connolly is out of Ireland's Euro 2020 decider with Denmark on Monday. Damage his groin, came off at half-time in the game against Manchester United at the weekend. Pep won't face action for reaction. I can't understand this. Why is he not facing any ban or... This is money or like you just go out and aggressively shake the hand of somebody going yes, you're great.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
I was at the PFAI Awards the other night, and I was relegated to the dregs table, the referees. So we were with Neil Doyle, Paul McLaughlin, and a few other lads, and great night with them. But it was brought to the fore by, I think there was a Gaelic Games referee who was at the Connacht Leinster game on Friday night, and he tweeted that there was some guy kind of abusing the referee, and basically he was told in no uncertain terms, if you want to do that, get out. This is not a place to be abusing referees. And
by the crowd?
It was by...
Or a steward?
I think it was a steward, but the crowd basically kind of applauded. That's what I recall from the tweet. And I was trying to reconcile that this was in the sports ground, if you were up in Eamon DC Park, what the reaction would be like, because it is, Ger, though, it's completely wrong what referees have to put up with. And the the abuse that they get and what the sneering kind of disdain from Guardiola on Sunday from guys that are trying to do their job. And bear in mind, these were decisions that weren't even clear cut, if that even matters. And we have to get to a situation where referees need to be encouraged. When do referees change their mind before VAR came in? Maybe one in a million. It never happens. So this abusing of referees undermines them. It makes it less attractive. And I'd love to see any of these footballers or managers be better referees than the ones that are there. Like, I think the Premier League referees are absolutely outstanding. I think VAR has kind of undermined their role. I think in the League of Ireland we have very good referees as well. They need to be encouraged, and I think we need in football to really start clamping down on this nonsense, because it's not fair. I think abusive language to a referee should be a straight red card. I really do believe that we should get to a situation where there's respect for what they do, because you get away with far too much, and it still astounds me. I know the players will argue back that a lot of the referees are quite arrogant. They won't explain themselves. And I think I was talking to Paul McLaughlin about this at the weekend, who was in the running for the Premier Division Referee of the Year, which absolutely ludicrously went to Michelle O'Neill, who I don't think she's even refereed a game in the Premier Division. She seemed to get it in a kind of a symbolic gesture. But he was saying that, you do talk to them, but the referees who kind of are standoffish and they make decisions and they look down on you, they don't explain themselves. I can see why that would make players kind of disgruntled, and would really, if you're a player who's angry, that'll really make your blood boil. But we have to get to a situation in football where referees are treated with the respect they deserve, because it's putting...
What's going to make that happen?
Rule change, I think. It has to happen. But Guardiola should definitely guess.
Biggest match in the world at the weekend.
And no.
Guardiola storms over, shaking hands with
that?
everybody angrily, and then holds the hand just that little bit longer.
What message is that?
I mean, they should have
sending out?
timed his normal post-match hand after a win with the referee and gone, oh, that's like a second and a half. That seems to be 3.5 seconds. You're saying there's no difference here, Pep.
Yeah.
Why is it so much longer?
Absolutely. And
are you trying to intimidate him for the next time? Yes, you are.
Even the narrative as well that I think Pat Fenlon said in the cup final recently, where we don't want to see the referee, that means he's having a good game. I think we kind of need to get around that as well. We have to recognise when referees make good decisions that are really, really difficult at the time, and when assistant referees get the right call on a dodgy offside, we should give them praise, because these are really difficult decisions when they get them right, especially under unbelievable pressure. Penalty takers, effectively, a penalty taker should not miss. He should be good enough at that level to hit the top corner. They don't, because of pressure, and referees are under pressure as well. We need to give them kudos when they make the right call, and I completely agree with you. I think Guardiola deserved to be sanctioned for that.
Yeah, okay. And then they also have the back page there is O'Driscoll's remarks came as a surprise to Lancaster. Leinster senior coach Stuart Lancaster was surprised by Brian O'Driscoll and Easton Assewa's suggestion that some of the Ireland players may become muddled in their thinking on the back of Leinster's expansive style of play. So I don't think that they were suggesting they became muddled in their thinking. I would suggest that they took stuff, what O'Driscoll and Assewa were saying, as far as I could understand it, was Stuart Lancaster arrived in, Leinster started to play really well. The Leinster players brought this to the Ireland setup. Ireland used it, played really well. And then the Irish coaching ticket made a decision to go back to what they were doing previously and not to continue with what they'd been doing at Leinster. So it's not that the players became muddled in their thinking, it's that the management at Ireland senior international level decided, oh yeah, well, to have a little bit of this now, let's see how that's going. Oh, that's working really well for us, let's stop doing it. Is essentially what I think Issa was suggesting happened, that there was a conscious decision to go back to a different game plan.
Yeah, would the Irish management have any issue with kind of what he said, the incoming Irish management?
With what, who said?
Lancaster, would they be like,
no, I don't think so.
Shouldn't be getting involved, or is it like...
Well, it's his job to answer questions at a press conference. So he's there, and his name has come up, and Leinster, this is what Leo Cullen said too, so I don't think so. I mean, they all work together.
Seems a deeply impressive guy.
Yeah, and so I would say he should be getting as involved as possible.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be
The Times London has an interesting one, not unrelated to our referee debate. Sort out VAR car crash, or scrap it now. Clubs to demand action from referees chief. We were obviously here Saturday, the Sheffield United game. Actually met Inda Stevens. He was at the awards that night, and he was kind of having a laugh about it. He was like, "Well, what do you do?" But it was quite harsh for Inda Stevens, because he was obviously involved in a bit of a mix-up for the Tottenham goal, and then he redeemed himself. If I mean, redeeming is kind of stupid because things happen in games and so on. It's not like, oh, I have to right or wrong here by creating a goal.
But he did.
He thought he had. And then 3 minutes, 40 seconds later, they went back for not only a very marginal offside call, which you could kind of argue, well, he was offside, but it was a different phase of play, in effect. You know, Tottenham had cleared the ball, and when they did equalise Sheffield United very shortly afterwards, it went to VAR. And I was kind of saying to Dan and Nathan, I was like, I kind of hope this is disallowed because this will be so ludicrous and so ridiculously offensive to what Sheffield United have done in the second half that it might actually compel people to say this is enough of this rubbish. Because I've gone off far, I have to say. I put up a poll on Twitter, and this means that, you know, this is all you need.
Definitive,
really.
yeah.
85-15 people, it's making me enjoy the game less. I saw another poll subsequently that people are basically turning against it. And the Times article is basically a group of Premier League chiefs will demand to know the car crash that is VAR, raise the possibility of scrapping the technology mid-season, which would be interesting. Because obviously we had plenty of but it is making it's just making the game less kind of spontaneous and ad hoc in terms of the enjoyment. And I think Phil Egan, the very angry Phil Egan, before he got angry, has made the point that he's kind of, you know, you see goals now and you don't really want to celebrate lest you look a fool a minute later. And wasn't Nathan was saying when Lallana scored against Man United, he was commentating on the game and he didn't really want to go over the top in the celebration because he's like, I think he might be offside there. This is a VAR. So I think the negatives are outweighing the positives.
Yeah, I wonder, is that just teething problems and everything's fine in 6 months' time? Or is this now something, it's a different game and we all have to...
Possibly. To be honest, if they use it for goal line technology, if they use goal line technology, I'd be fine in terms of technology. The rest, I'm not really sure we need. Marginal offside calls, nobody dies.
Yeah. All right. Nadine Coyle is going to be in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out Here alongside James Haskell, rugby player, Ian Wright, Caitlin Jenner. Is this the most sporting...
Did Kevin Kilban, like, did he get the call for that, or was it just
he's got
inferior dancing on ice?
Exactly, you got to work your way up in the celebrity stratosphere. Yeah.
Is that, you think, his grand plan?
I mean, why not? Like, come on, you get paid loads of money to do this, don't you?
Problem is, then people will start.
Andrew Maxwell's in it as well.
Oh. People will start knowing Kevin for his celebrity appearances rather than his many hundreds of appearances in the football pitch and his football analysis.
The Irish Daily Mail this morning is Connolly KO. So Aaron Connolly's out. Ireland blow as Teen is ruled out of Danish clash. Should Clifford be the one anointed to end number 13 curse for Kingdom? They don't really believe in curses in Kerry, but, you know, maybe they'll give him the 15 jersey instead. And Lancaster Chaos Theory wasn't at fault in Japan. So
the Mirror goes with no con job for Mick, I think, which was the big narrative, obviously, of the day. Connolly out of both games. Warner calls it quits. The Cardiff boss left, and 6 hit Lilies put on united front in final cruise. There was a funny moment in that Linfield Dundalk game. As you say, got a bit of heat on Twitter last night about the game, but the PA at the ground said he was announcing Chris Shields as the man of the match, and he called it the Unite the Nation man of the match is... Oh, sorry, the Unite the Union man of the match. So it was a beautiful double on... Because the Linfield fans... what would have been at Oriel Park, though? They may not have been able to actually hear him because everything is pretty bad in that ground. But the Linfield fans were over in the corner. Very, very cold night by the border. They probably wanted something to give them cheer, and I dare say some of them had a bit of a laugh at that anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure. The Telegraph Sport. I turned down the Lions. It's Warren Gatland in front of the London Eye. I turned down the All Blacks in favour of the Lions. I turned down the All Blacks is what the headline says.
Big news.
It's not really, though, is it? Because, like, he didn't actually turn down the All Blacks.
That's the headline, Ger.
He was asked if he was available. And he's like, no, I'm doing the Lions. You sure you know I'm doing the Lions?
Then he turned them down.
No, he didn't.
He turned down the chance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He turned down to be one of 40 people that they... Literally, the All Blacks have identified 20 or 30 odd coaches who would potentially fit the bill as the next... Like, we all know, there's a guy within the camp already who is almost nailed on to be getting it. And Gatland sees that and knows that he hasn't coached back at home. And so, therefore... And so he'd be putting himself forward to get rejected.
Clever cookie or Gartland.
He's a genius. And he's got a lot of buddies in the English media ahead of the Lions. I mean, in fairness, the Telegraph Telegraph gets off on the lines quite a lot.
You do like your share of rugby, your share of football. Do you find they're more interesting, engaging coaches? When you look at the Eddie Jones, obviously, as well, and Gatland, and the spats that they have, and Joe Schmidt's a fairly intriguing character. Are they more interesting than your average football manager?
There's far fewer of them, so you're exposed to them more often. And Gatland is very forthcoming about the fact that he dislikes certain things, like the IRFU who stabbed him in the back, and he will say that. Like, he will say, they stabbed me in the back. And he'll name names, and and he'll bear grudges, and I like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I respect the fact that he uses that as motivation on a daily basis.
What's Andy Farrell going to be like? Is his accent as like ridiculously Wigan, North England as Richard Cooper?
It's like that's
hardcore,
pitch perfect.
Yeah,
it's So I think that
good press conferences.
Yeah, and I think that everybody's going to like and warm to that.
My cat.
I don't know that much about my cat really. I don't think that so we see nothing of that backroom team at the minute. So I wouldn't say we'll see too much of my cat. Maybe he'll be up for some press conferences occasionally, one at the start, and then on match week maybe he'll be up for stuff, but I'd be surprised.
More interesting than Joe Schmidt's?
With Joe Schmidt, it was always kind of what was how the manipulation of the message was being massaged through things.
Bringing out a book?
Bringing out a book. It's very interesting because he's going to have to talk about it.
It's 50 quid to appear at, with a copy of the book, I think, 50 quid to appear at the kind of promotional events. And would you get a free copy of the book as well? Maybe, obviously, you get to meet Joe, I suppose.
Right.
Because what's the name of No Ordinary Joe, I think, is that?
I think it's the opposite.
Ordinary Joe.
Ordinary
Sorry,
Joe.
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting title. It was like, could you have done something a bit more pizzazz, Ordinary Joe? Like, it's kind of, it's stating the message, but it's like, is it going to sell the book, Ordinary Joe? You're putting the word ordinary in the title of a book?
Yeah, but is it not, like, clear that he's not an ordinary Joe? So it's like, is it not false self-modesty?
I don't know.
Or is he telling us that actually he is just an ordinary guy with this one obsession in life?
It's hardly a great endorsement of his book, though, is it?
I mean, because the way it all fell apart so spectacularly, everybody wants to get in and see the 100 pages where he goes, we've just beaten the All Blacks, we're the #1 team in the world, we're on top of the mountain, and I'm looking down going, well, I might have a nice house over there, and I'll see what's going on. It's like, how did they go from there to the car crash that was the World Cup?
Did the car crash, will that help his book sales?
I think so. I think
maybe
that,
it will.
Well,
Tainted Legacy.
Well, I think everybody...
That would have been a good name.
Tainted Legacy.
Yeah.
Tainted in a book.
Don't think he would have gone for it, but...
Give me some other titles then.
Let's get some names in.
Yeah, come on. What have you got?
Names for Joe's book.
Do they all need to be puns on Joe?
I don't think Ordinary Joe was great.
Schmidt happens.
Yeah, that was taken, I think.
It was. Russell Carroll Kelly, yeah.
Yeah. That I'm not sure they would have gone for that.
I don't think so either.
But it was probably still better than Ordinary Joe. Maybe Ordinary Joe is a good name. I just don't think it would compel me to think that. I mean, you're kind of saying, like, you have two words in your book cover and one of them is ordinary. I mean...
But the whole point is you thought it was no Ordinary Joe, right?
I want to read the book. I mean, if you're telling me he's ordinary, like, and it's just ordinary, and Joe is a fairly... I mean, it's a one-syllable name. There's not a lot going on there. Ordinary Joe. Like, I don't know. You would have done something different, I think.
The Guardian this morning, their back page is an ad for Nike. Sure, there you go. Didn't mean to do that, sorry. The back page of their sports section is, everywhere I go, they shout Rooney at me. Everyone. Kieran Trippier and life at Atletico Madrid and why Gareth Southgate is perfect. Why are they shouting Rooney at Trippier? Because he's English. So Rooney's the only one he's the shining beacon of Englishness in Madrid. There you go.
There we are.
Arsenal of Emery's back, but things need to improve. This seems like it's a headline from yesterday, but it is Tuesday the 12th of November on the back of the Guardian.
Yeah.
I thought that Emery story was out yesterday.
Difficult times for Unai. Pretty insipid against Leicester. Things aren't great.
You're done, are you? Okay, so...
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, I've no more papers here. I only got 3 papers. I've been sidelined.
I'm no cloppy cat. Mick McCarthy won't be following Michael O'Neill's lead and double job his way back into a club management post.
I don't know. I would not have thought of that as a story. I mean, Mick has like literally had no time off effectively since he came into management. So I imagine he'll want to get back into management. It just seems to be his way of life. But like, was there really a chance of him being? You know, was there really a chance of a club taking him on at the moment? I wouldn't have thought so.
No, is his reputation very high in England at the minute?
Well, I thought so. He's getting on a bit, like, so he's enough to be doing with the Ireland situation. Mick O'Neill was a completely different scenario.
Matty Donnelly out for 6 months, has had surgery, and he will have surgery in a hospital in London today and faces up to 6 months out. It's a bad injury, so Matty Donnelly got the results of the scan last week. It's revealed that one of the tendons of the bone and the hamstring has, I think it's been torn. So I think I'll just get that. So no, not doing
desperate blow this time of the year, and make it difficult to be back in reasonable shape for the start of the championship. But at least he has that time frame.
Yeah. So it says on page 46 it's continued, but I can't find it on page 46. So there you go. I lied to you.
Fault,
You'll have to wait and find out exactly. I think it's torn. We've got the Irish news for you as well this morning. The Irish news is Donnelly injury, a blow for Red Hands, and McCarthy happy in the job he has. So
interesting there, Blues whitewashed. So Irish news would obviously have a different audience, not necessarily Linfield fans. I don't know about that or whatever, but they took on the fact that the Blues were whitewashed rather than, I suppose, obviously Dundalk wearing white, but the headline kind of focuses in on how bad Linfield were. I don't know, maybe I'm making too much of this, but the optics were appalling in that game last night.
So your point very simply was that if you're a club from the north, you're looking at that and you're going, we're never going to be able to compete against the best teams in the south. Is that it?
Pretty much, in that it is a kind of a turkeys voting for chicken scenario, in that, like, Linfield have resources up there. Linfield did very well in the Europa League this year. I think they got around £1 million from it. The prize money in the Irish League is absolutely dreadful. It's even worse than down here. But if there are doubts about the All-Ireland League, in that, what is the actual Kieran Lucid's idea? What is the actual TV company that's going to put forward this 7-figure sum? And where's the rest of the money going to come from? Now, Kieran Lucid will say, we can't really answer that until we actually get the vote and we can move forward, which is fine, but there is an element of trust there. So if there are Irish League clubs wavering, and clearly there are, and there are clubs in the south probably wavering as well, if you're an Irish League club in the north that can compete with Linfield, and you watch Linfield with a nearly full-strength team, go to Dundalk, lose 6-0, could have been about 12-0. Dundalk were 4-0 up without actually creating a goal, because Linfield gifted them all of the 4 goals. It had echoes of the end of the Setanta Cup, where the northern teams were so inferior. I'm not sure that the northern, like, there would be Northern Ireland clubs would look at that, like, why would we join this league? We have to take, first of all, we have to take it on trust that the money is there. We're going to give up European places, I would imagine. And on the evidence of that, none of the Irish League clubs would be getting into the European places, because Linfield were, and I am jumping the gun a bit, it was a 2-off game, granted, it wasn't a Europa League tie, but at the same time, why were Linfield so bad?
Who knows? Maybe
the game at the weekend.
Maybe they don't care about
Lavery.
this. Maybe they're not that enthused about this made-up trophy.
Good prize money for this as well in a league that doesn't have good prize money. They should be representing the Irish League in a game like that. Basically, they were missing 1 or 2 of their best players. Lavery was out. They were absolutely appallingly bad. They were so poor. 6-0, the optics are terrible.
You sat here one Friday afternoon and talked to us about a game that you'd been at Linfield where they played Carabag, and they were quite good.
They were excellent. Now, that game was a little bit misleading in that they hit them on the break and all that, but they were good that night. Windsor Park was rocking. Linfield are not as bad as they showed last night, but to me, and Daniel MacDonald has said it probably did more harm than good for the AIL prospects. Emmett Malone more or less said something similar. I don't think the All-Ireland League is going to happen after this. I think the northern clubs will definitely, the ones that were 50-50 won't vote for it after seeing Linfield getting beaten 6-0 by a Dundalk team that wasn't even out of second gear.
Yeah.
And that's, maybe I'm wrong on that, but looking at that game last night, you're looking at other League of Ireland clubs taking on, like Shamrock Rovers, St. Pat's against Linfield last night. Rovers would have hockeyed them as well, and Linfield are by far the biggest team in the north.
Yeah, but look, is there no possibility that Linfield just had a bad night, that something happened, that maybe, I don't know.
Possibly. The optics are really bad, though. We don't get to play them in proper games very often, and when we do, it shouldn't be 7-1 on aggregate. It shouldn't be 7-1 aggregate. There were no issues with fitness. It's in the middle of the season. It's in the end of our season. It's not like a pre-season game. It should be a big deal. There's good prize money. David Healy gave it the respect it deserved with the teams he picked, and Linfield were like a pub team. They were like a first division team last night from the League of Ireland. In fact, they wouldn't win the first division they wouldn't even get close to win the first division playing like that.
Yeah. All right. The other big story from the last 24 hours was Stephen Hunt throwing his former international teammate Kevin Kilbane under the bus. The headline is, "Me and Kevin Kilbane have been in coppers more times since we retired than as footballers." He was doing a gig for Now TV, and he was interviewed, and he ends up talking about Kilbane.
I think it's
hilarious.
That's a headline. Is that not? Obviously, it's a reflection on the fact that you like a few pints when you're older, but it's like we were professional footballers, and now that we've retired, we can enjoy ourselves a bit more.
Yeah, in specific venues, though. In specific places.
Yeah.
It's like
Coppers has been taken on now. The Black Door looks like it's eaten into that hegemony or whatever you want to call it. It's Coppers may not be the big leader it once was. It's up for sale as well, isn't it?
No, they took it off the market last week.
They took it off the market?
Yeah.
Still, Dublin's nightclub scene is so small that it's just, you just see every Tom, Dick and Harry ends up there, I suppose, including Kevin and Stephen Hunt.
Every Kevin and Stephen and all the rest of the Ireland internationals. Right, 8:07 this morning, you're listening or watching us on OTB AM. You're probably watching us on YouTube, or if you're listening to us, maybe you're listening to us on the Go Loud app. If you don't know what that is yet, get onto the Play Store or wherever you get your Apple apps, the App Store I believe it's called, and you can get Go Loud right there, and you'll have OTB Sports Radio in your earbuds all day. We've got ex-Carlo coach Stephen Poacher up next, talking about his decision to step away. Back after this.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio.